Let's welcome our next Hall of Famer up here this evening. He contributed 21 years to Clarion as an athlete and a coach. 3-time PSAC champion, 4-time NCAA qualifier. He compiled a record of 113, 28, and 5. At the time, it was the 6th best record in the program's storied history. And he's part of one of the best teams in Clarion history, a 17-0-1 record in 1986. Ken Nellis. Clip this right here. Okay, just put that flat. Ken, you were a wrestler from a family of wrestlers. What was that house like growing up?
Yeah, our house was unique. I'm the 6th out of 7 kids in my family. My sister was the oldest, and then 6 boys. So we always had a lot of activity in our house. My parents were very loving. My mother was really the kind of the disciplinarian of the household. But we had a lot of activity. We always had other people in our house. It wasn't, sometimes, summer times, there were, my older brothers had friends that didn't have a place to go in the summertime, or they worked in Pittsburgh. So whether my brothers were there, or some of the times their friends were living in our house. So it was always an active household, definitely, very active.
You were a state champion in high school, and state champion in the state of Pennsylvania. That's a pretty big deal. That's pretty good. But when you stepped on Clarion's campus for that first fall practice, that was a wake-up call, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was. I was fortunate. Like I mentioned, my brothers. My brother Keith, he was a state champion in 1973. Then my brother Kevin was a runner-up in '74. Then my brother Craig was also a runner-up and took 4th. And then my little brother was a runner-up and state champion also. So I came from a family of some really accomplished wrestlers, and yeah, I thought I was pretty good. So when I came to Clarion, it was very eye-opening. This first couple weeks, didn't get a lot of takedowns those first couple weeks. It was just ironic. Last week we were at Hershey for the United States Wrestling Hall of Fame Pennsylvania chapter, and one of the guys that was a former teammate there, Steve Jasterbeck, he was working for the Hall of Fame, and he was a 134-pounder, and I hadn't probably seen Jasterbeck in, 30 years. He didn't finish school here at Clarion, but he was the guy that, just kicked my butt the first 2 weeks. And so it was kind of fun seeing him, ironic seeing him last week, and then here we are today. So it was pretty cool.
Well, you told me that one of the big transitions that you had to make was that you spent a lot of time just wrestling in high school. The college game requires a lot more conditioning, a lot more weight training. That was one of the really big transitions you had to make.
Yeah, I wasn't always built this good, yeah. I did in high school. My brother Craig particularly, he was a real hard worker. He lifted, he trained hard, he worked hard, and I probably just was, I guess, naturally gifted as a gifted wrestler. So things came easier to me. And with my ability, so I was just getting by on that type of ability. And when I came to Clarion, sometimes in the weight room I would struggle with the bar and 35 pounds on the bench press and stuff. They joke about that. My brother Craig still does, and how I was out of my element in the weight room at Clarion that first couple of years.
Well, a big part of your development when you were at Clarion was you redshirted in 1985. And that gave you a little bit of a different perspective on the sport. You're sort of off the mat, and said you were watching a lot more than you were doing.
Yeah, it was unique. I wrestled my first 3 years at Clarion, my freshman through my junior year, and just the way our team was kind of lining up, we had a lot of really, really good middleweights in our wrestling room, and I was transitioning from moving from 142 to 150, and again, I wasn't very big, strong 150-pounder. So, Coach Bubb, we had talked about redshirting and sitting aside, but he gave me the opportunity not only just to redshirt and to train and wrestle in open tournaments, but he kind of used me as a little bit of a coach. I spent a lot of time going over tapes and with wrestlers and some technique and some other things. So that year when I redshirted, I did a lot of, I guess, just instruction, teaching, and besides the wrestling with the other teammates on the team. So I was a little bit of a red shirt and a little bit of a pseudo coach.
You mentioned Coach Bubb. Saw him here this evening. He is Clarion. What does he mean to you?
Yeah, I was extremely fortunate growing up. The three probably most influential men in my life all have the same name, Bob. My father, Bob Nellis. He's not able to be here tonight. He just had triple bypass surgery last week. He's 86 years old. My dad was fantastic. As far as a loving father and somebody that showed us, modeled great work ethic for us. And then my high school coach was Bob Sire, and he was a great guy that I got to be around for a lot of years. And then Bob Bubb. So all three of those guys. Coach Bubb was just fantastic as far as teaching, obviously wrestling, and just knowing how to put together a team, integrity, sportsmanship, and just hard work. There was no way to cut corners. There's a lot of wrestlers here today, and we have so many, I guess, called Bubberisms that we, things that Coach Bubb would always say, and we could all probably name 5 or 10 of those here tonight. And I see some of the wrestlers kind of laughing and shaking their head, but so there's the things that we take from Coach that transfer over from wrestling to our lives today.
Coach Bubb he'd give you guys just enough rope sometimes to hang yourselves. Talk about those New Year's Day practices. Yeah,
it was kind of funny. We always, Coach was, again, smart enough guy that he would give us the words of wisdom. You want to soar with the eagles, you can't be out hooting with the owls. There's one of some things that he used to say. But, for New Year, we'd be up here for training over the semester break. And if we, December 31st, if we were going to get together and guys were going to have a party and there was going to be some drinking, Coach, would tell us, of course, not to do it, but he's also wise enough to know that there was going to be something probably that was going to transpire, take place. He warned us about it, but then, January 1st, that morning, we'd have an 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock practice in the morning, and it would be a lot of running, a lot of loud music. He wouldn't like our music very much, sometimes that we played in the 80s and things, and sometimes he would bring in John Philip Sousa marching band music and play it really loud in the wrestling room. And, what's wrong? You don't like my music? And we were like, oh my goodness. But so if people did partake, on December 31st, we paid a price January 1st in the morning with a training and working out.
Let's talk about that 1986 season. Really special season here at Clarion. At the time, did you have the perspective of what you guys were accomplishing or what you guys were doing, or was it business as usual?
I think along the way, it was pretty much business as usual. Coach Bubb never let us get too far ahead of ourselves. But as we were progressing, I think at the beginning of the year, I don't know if we were even ranked in the top 20 of, the amateur wrestling news teams. And then we started off in the first match of the year. We wrestled Oklahoma State, and a bunch of guys stepped up and wrestled really strong matches. One of our teammates, Randy Richard, upset one of their accomplished wrestlers, and just the whole day got rolling on pretty well. And then as our team, clicked off win after win against much higher ranked teams, I think we kind of felt ourselves, hey, we are pretty good, and we can really accomplish something special.
Ken, is there anybody here you'd like to recognize or thank for being here, or even if they're not here tonight?
Well, yeah. I do want to thank my dad's not here, and like I said, he had bypass surgery about 9 or 10 days ago, and he's doing pretty well. But I've got fortunate to wrestle here and then come back as a coach. And my wife and family, my wife said to me when I first moved here, Coach Bob brought me back in 1990, and she said, "Promise me we won't be here more than 5 years." And 27 years later, we're still here living in Clarion. So it's kind of unique. I have, I've got my wrestling teammates, of course, my immediate family, my family that I grew up with, and then just a lot of people from the community. But first off, my immediate family, my wife Cindy, my daughter Brianna, and Luke are here. My youngest son Seth is a senior in senior prom night, so he's at the senior prom. So they're here. But then my sister Kathy, her husband Mark is here. My brother Keith, my brother Kevin came in from Atlanta, my brother Craig from Pittsburgh. Then I've got some roommates from Jefferson Apartment 201 when I was a sophomore in college, so they're here. It was really special that they're here for tonight. And then there's just the teammates that are here. I'll mention them in a second, but also just some people in the community and have always, my friends, Dave Cadis and Glenn and Paul Ham, all the table back there. I'm glad they're here. It's great. The teammates too, really special. They're from the '86 team and some other teammates. I've got Paul Clark was a 134-pounder on the wrestling team. Mark Ciccarello was also a 34-pounder. He was graduated a couple years earlier, but special athlete, special teammate. Mike Cole, Kenny Hasselrig, Jim Beekner, Kurt Buttrin. Trying to think somebody I probably missed. Some of my wrestlers, the teammates that I wrestled with that were here. And then there's several guys that I coached that are here too. So it's just, it's for me, it's special because of the number of years that I've lived in Clarion, that we made it our home. It's a great place to live. And I'm just really fortunate and honored to be sitting here tonight with so many people that built into my life. So it's exciting, and I'm glad to be here.
Ken Nellis.